I would like to thank every single one who's been a part of putting together such a wonderful event. It is truly an honor to be here with all of you today and to share my story. Today, I would like to talk to you about overcoming the odds. Yes, the same odds that make you want to stop and ask yourself, what the fuck is going on? So my goal today is to share with you the same principles that I've used as an orphan to help me overcome my odds, and hopefully give you the same principles so you can refer to them when the odds are against you. I'd like to start off the first principle, be resourceful, by telling you a story. I was hungry. The kitchen table was full of empty shot glasses and breadcrumbs from the night before. A setting that repeated itself from one day to another. I felt hopeless. I went into my birth mother's bedroom only to find out that she was drunk again. I thought about going back to sleep, but my bed was full of bed bugs. I was slowly running out of options. There was one other thing I could do before doing something I would regret. I ran towards the main closet and opened the door. I felt relieved as it was hanging right in front of me, my birth mother's gray raincoat. I thought to myself, hurry up before she wakes up. So I started searching through all the pockets, but there was no change to be found anywhere. I knew that there was another way. So I put on my worn-down sneakers and went straight to the grocery store around the corner. I was determined to change the situation I was in, even if it meant doing something I would regret to this day. Stealing a loaf of bread in order to survive. We spend so much time and energy looking for ways to create more connections or earn more money. Rarely do we stop and think about ways how we can maximize the resources within our reach. That is what I did, and that is exactly what you can do starting today. Find a way to maximize the resources within your reach. Principle number 2, envision a better day. I sat on one side of the table as the woman in charge of placement sat on the other. My sister stood right behind me, crying, asking me to come home with her. But I had already made my decision. So after a brief get to know you, we moved straight to the point. The woman in charge of placement said, you'll have your own toys, friends to play with, food, and a roof over your head. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. On one hand, I was tempted to say no, as part of me still wanted to live with my sister. I loved her, and I still do. But on the other hand, I needed a change. So a decision had to be made. An orphan, a term that became a part of my identity. I was scared and alone when I entered the doorway to family number 1. I truly was alone, as my sister couldn't be with me. I was no longer in her custody. As I entered the orphanage, I was immediately met by one of the caregivers, Natalia. She was one of 3, all working alternating shifts, each one with her own set of rules and expectations of how we should behave. So after a brief get to know you and an overview of the family, we were met by another kid, an older orphan. It was time. It was time for him to show me where we ate, slept, cleaned dishes. Everything seemed normal until he said, behave or you'll be punished. I was scared. I wanted to go back and live with my sister, but there was nothing I could have done to reverse my decision. A decision that seemed so promising at first, but turned out to be completely different. Now, living at the orphanage had its own set of challenges, especially when it came to dealing with daily physical abuse, a practice that was used by most caregivers and older orphans that taught us discipline. I still remember my first time. It was right after I ran away to go see my birth mother. I had no idea what was waiting for me at the orphanage. "Get over here," screamed the caregiver. Clueless, as I'd never experienced this type of punishment before, especially one for seeing your own family. So I walked into the middle of this large family room. My hands were shaking. I was trying not to cry. And then I broke down. I started crying, asking them to stop, explaining how I would never do it again. But they didn't listen, as the two older orphans continued to kick me. For days after such punishment, all I could feel was pain. My body was simply not meant for such physical abuse. I could have told my sister, but I was scared. I could have told the director, but I was afraid of being abused even more. It felt as if no one cared for you or your situation. But despite all of that, I still had hope that a better day would come. So now I would like to challenge all of you. I would like you to close your eyes and try to envision a better day. What does it look like? Who's there with you? How does it make you feel? Principle number 3, believe in yourself. Do you accept Oleg Michael Lougheed as your new legal name? Yes, I do. Afraid of the unknown, but determined to create a better future for myself. I knew it was a decision that had to be made. However, it wasn't until weeks that I fully understood what that opening question truly meant. Accepting a new identity was one thing, but giving up your past was another. I want you to imagine for a moment all of the things that identify you as an individual. Your name, your family, your friends, the language you speak. Now, what if I said you no longer have your friends, your family, your language? All that you were left with was your name, which half the time people won't be able to pronounce anyway. How would you feel? Some of you are probably thinking scared, alone. Well, that is exactly how kids who are adopted feel. You see, kids who are adopted have no option but to change. They have no option but to give up pieces of themselves, such as their birth name, their friends, their family, their memories, their culture. So after realizing all the challenges that adoptees go through on a daily basis and living through all of them myself, I've decided to commit to something much bigger than myself, which brings me to my 4th and final principle: become of something bigger than yourself. In May of 2017, we officially launched our nonprofit, Overcoming Odds. Our mission is to help restore a sense of belonging and family, provide resources for future adoptive parents, and help raise awareness within the adoption and foster care community. A community that will always accept you and can be relied on, as each and every member has been through his or her own version of your struggles. a community that is ready and willing to speak up for those who are not able to. With that said, I would like to challenge you one last time by asking you these 3 questions. I want you to look at your life and ask yourself, what am I doing with my time? Am I doing anything that's bigger than myself? And what kind of impact am I having on others and this pale blue dot we call our home? Thank you.